Hi, welcome to another 5-minute session, and this time about the UV. We have so far used UV all the time, and if you look at the rendered view, you now know that this is 0, and up here it's y in, or 1 in the y direction and 1 in the x direction. To be clear, we are not working with y and x when we are working with UV, we are working with u and v, because when you do the model, you are working in 3 dimensions. So if you do Suzanne the monkey, or if you just use the default cube, you use x, y, and z. But UV is more like a wrapper around that. So it's a map telling you every little place you should have the texture on. And the easiest way is to demonstrate it. So let's take a texture, because that is the easiest way to see it. So I press Shift A, and then I select texture and can take a brick texture, and we can do one little square out of this little brick texture here. So we take the color out there, and we take the offset to 0, scale to 1, and brick width to 1, and row height to 1, and we can have a little more of a mortar, so we have something like that. Now we have one brick here in the brick texture. If I now make a cube, so I press Shift A, Mesh, and a cube, and I use the same material on that one, then you can see it's no longer this little brick that I made, or this tile, it's something else. How come it's like that? Because it was so nice, and I would like to have that little tile on each side. Well, it's depending on the UV. So if I drag this out, create a new window, and create UV editor, or select UV editor here, and then select the cube and press tab, you can see what happens. So this little, or this big square here, that is the UV space. So it's 0 and 0 down here, and it's 1 and 1 up here. And now we have learned that this is in the U and the V direction, not in the X and Y, but you understand. So this is 0 to 1 direction. But you can see the small squares are the squares that are like wrapped around this cube. So every face that you have on a cube is also the face that you can see here. And those are not covering 0 to 1. They are just a portion of 0 to 1. So that is the reason that we don't get the tile when we do a cube, but when we do the plane, we get this tile, because the plane is going on the complete UV sphere. So if I now move this, I just select everything by pressing A, you can then see that stuff is moving on the cube as well, because this is a map telling the model exactly where the texture should be. So right now, this texture, this little face here in the middle, the center here, if I can see if I can select that one, this little thing here, that is between 0 and something like 0.2 or 4 or something like that. I think it's 0.25 to be exactly, but that doesn't matter. So that little part here, that is only part, but then we know that the tile that I built here only uses that portion of the tile, so we just see the bottom of the tile. If you want to see everything and have every side exactly the same, in some cases you would like that, then you can just select UV and reset. Then every tile or every face will be a complete UV space. So every face here is then layered in layers below here. So they are now 0 to 1 on each of these. Then you can scale them if you want. So you can just, if I scale them like going down, like this, then this, just this one that I have selected, you can see it's only scaling that part, that face, the other one is remaining. But if I scale it down, then this will be growing. So if I take it on the other direction, it will then be shrinking. So this is also a way to make like a tiled floor, because, or a tiled wall, because all you have to do is really to scale it in the UV. So you don't have to do so much up here if you don't want to. You can then move it around as you want to and make everything happen. You can also scale it on the other direction and then move it a little bit how you would like it to be here. So that is the base for UV, and then you can go into very advanced stuff when it comes to UV, but this is how it works. So it's a map presenting the texture on the right space, on the UV, on the faces here. So that was the 5 minutes. Hope you learned something today as well, and I will see you tomorrow.